killing me. And hello, everyone. Happy Monday, last Monday of the month. This is the 2 Point Conversion with my
Jay
friend,
Eubanks.
my friend Jay and me. Um, just a word to the wise. Well, right now I can't see any chats, but if you if you're chatting on, if you want to send a message on Twitter, we don't get it for some reason. So it would be best if you go to Twitch or YouTube or any other thing but Twitter. And it's nice to see everyone or hear everyone or whatever. And we're gonna start off with the two. So, in case you guys don't know, the 2 Point Conversion, Jay has two topics. I have two topics, and we converse on them. Um, I also think that, and then at the end there's a rant. So I'm kind of really interested to. I saw what Jay's rant's going to be, so I'm really interested to see what to hear this. But Jay, you want to start with
Yeah, I'm
your?
gonna I'm gonna cross over the lines here and get out of foosball for a second, and
Okay.
I'm gonna start off in basketball, and I want to talk about the LeBron James effect, right? The effect that player has on a team, on a fan base, and what happens when he joins a team, when he leaves a team, and all of that good stuff. Because that's always a very entertaining conversation, right? So when you look at LeBron James, depending on which barbershop you go to, right? He's either the GOAT or he's in the GOAT conversation, except in LA, where they're going to put Kobe over
Oh,
LeBron all the
yeah.
time. Um, Shout out to Kobe, Black Mama, rest in peace forever, my favorite player of all time. But to say that Kobe belongs over LeBron is just it's just foolish. I'm just going to call that as it is. But when you look at LeBron, right? So you look at LeBron, and right now he's averaging this season 37 years old, 18 years into the season, 18 years into the NBA, 29 points a game, 7.9 rebounds, 6.3 assists per game, and a 26.58 PER. So he's fourth in player efficiency rating at 37 in his year 18 season. There are only three players that have a higher efficiency rating than him, and that's Giannis, Joker, and Embiid, right? So he's literally like the fourth best player in the league right now at 37, according to those metrics. But there's so many other things that go along with it, and being a Laker fan, seeing both that side of it. Last night's game was pretty bad against the Pelicans. Last night's game was pretty bad against the Pelicans. It got blown out of the gym. Jenny Buss walks out, but there's the LeBron James effect that happens in many different layers.
Wait, Ginny Bus. She walked out of the game.
She
She walked
walks out
out
of the gym, right? She walks out of the Staples Center like, I've had enough. I can't
at
take this
halftime or
anymore. I
end of the
think it was in
game.
the third quarter. I think it was in the third quarter when they showed her, just kind of walking out. And I don't
Okay.
blame her, right?
Okay.
Don't blame her. But what does LeBron do to your team, right? He does a couple of things. The first thing he does is he changes the expectations of the team, right? He's going to change the expectations. You now become a championship or bust team. Fair or not, that's what LeBron does to the team. And so that completely, just even that dynamic on its own, that changes everything, right? That changes the coaching philosophy. That changes your roster construction because he has to have a star with him. Now you got to go. Now you got money tied up into big name players. So now you got to get cheap players. Well, how do you get cheap players? You got to go young and unproven before they proven because they become more expensive, or you got to get old and cheap. And the Lakers have
Go
young
ahead.
and proven and old and cheap, right? And then the second thing that he does is that he polarizes the fan base. When I think of LeBron, I have never seen a more great player than LeBron James, who is as heavily scrutinized as him as well. I mean, can you imagine, like, Gladys, would you imagine like Jordan in the era of Twitter and social media, Facebook, and all that type of stuff? Just the things that he will go through. Charles Barkley, their gambling things coming out,
Right.
like that, and just being scrutinized in social media off of every little thing. And so what he does is he creates this. There's this circus that follows him around. You get the people that hate him; they're gonna hate everything about him. The Skip Baylesses of the world, right?
Ugh.
And then you're gonna
How
get the
does
people who, yeah, go ahead.
how does Skip Bayless still have a job? That's my question.
Well, that's his job, right? His job is to rile up people to the point where you're just like, I can't believe this idiot says that, and you're watching him. You know,
Well, I
yeah,
don't, but
well, we don't. Well, we're talking about him, or he comes
yeah,
up and
we are talking about him. So
he definitely he makes interesting conversation, right? And then you get the other side of that, which is the LeBron can do no wrong guy. It's his co-host, Shannon Sharp. You know what I mean? And both of those guys, what they do is they create this divide. Those two sides of LeBron, they create a divide within the fans. They create a divide in the local media. And there's all of these things where we start scrutinizing LeBron, right? He can be passive aggressive. You know what I mean? He's so great, but now the Lakers are terrible, and it's all his fault because he made this bed and now he has to lay in it. All of these things, fair or not, those that come with LeBron. And then eventually, what starts to happen is that divide makes its way to the interview podium. They're asking them these questions. Yeah, are you committed to the Lakers? And there's these awkward moments where he gives you this. Some people will say this calculated response. Some people will say this passive aggressive response where he's making it clear he's flirting with, Sam. He wants Sam Presti to be the German. He wants to play with his son. He's not out. He hasn't thrown out returning to the Cavaliers. All of this stuff is just looming, and it becomes magnified. It's awesome. He hides a lot of the things when the team is winning. But when the team is losing, he exposes a lot of the flaws as well. And what you see right now with the Lakers is that you just see just this broken team. They have no direction. They can't do any. I mean, LeBron himself, if you look at his stats, absolutely amazing, right? I mean, balling out of his mind.
okay, so is this the LeBron effect or is it the coach effect?
I think it's the LeBron effect because all of that comes in, right? The first thing that happens in LeBron when LeBron comes onto your team is the roster construction changes because now you have to play for win now, right? So the Lakers had a bunch of young players, with LeBron the first year, right? The first year before Anthony Davis came in.
Okay.
The Lakers had Lonzo, they had Brandon Ingram, Kyle, all of those guys, Josh Hart's, all of those guys. They can't win with that. And so they got to get rid of them. They bring in another superstar, and now they have money tied up into two main players. And then they go in and add Russell Westbrook. About that. But he changes the roster construction, and he changes the way that the Lakers wanted to play basketball. Since LeBron James came, they've been one of the slowest paced teams in the league. You know what I mean? That's so anti-Showtime. Nobody wants to watch the Lakers play half-court basketball.
Or basketball, actually, lately.
Yeah, we don't even watch them play basketball
Yeah.
right now. You take these Lakers and the crypto.com arena and get out of here with that. But I just say that because for as great as LeBron is, you have to definitely, because it is too late now, right? But you got to definitely consider, do you want everything else that comes along with him? Which for the Lakers, I mean, we have this debate here in LA. What is it? Because one of my friends, saying that it's been completely mediocre. And I'm like, how can you say that when they have a championship 2 years ago, first championship in 10 years? We got the Lakers have credibility again in free agency. People want to play for the Lakers again. And so it's just this interesting chasm of everything that LeBron James is and brings to the Lakers. And you ask
Do you
the
know
Cleveland Cavaliers, do you regret bringing LeBron back? And they'll say, no, we're hanging a banner.
you don't think this same um effect is like, say, James Harden, who commands where he wants to go? He doesn't have the same ripple effect on teams that he goes on to.
I don't think so because there's no pedigree of winning championships with James Harden, right?
True.
LeBron James, every single team that he's gone on has won at least one championship. They're in the mix. They're going to be a contender. They're going to be, if not in the finals, they're going to be pretty close to it. And James Harden is not in the conversation of being one of the top 3 basketball players to ever play the game.
I'm gonna. Okay.
See,
So, no, yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. I think he's one of the top players now playing the game. But I mean, I don't. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I just, I just don't. Is it fair?
there's no such thing as fair when you're that great, right? When you are LeBron James, whether it's fair or not, that doesn't really matter. It's not fair to him. It's not fair to the Lakers, but it comes with the territory of him being who he is. He doesn't help it. He doesn't help the cause out a lot. He can be very calculated and passive aggressive in some of the things that he says. He tweets these little cryptic messages all the time and leaves people to try to figure that stuff out. He seems to kind of blame other players in passive aggressively. He doesn't do that like on the floor, like he's all like, those are my guys, I'm building them up and everything. But he'll say little things here and there that make you think, oh, that was a shot.
See, now
But
it sounds like you're talking about Aaron Rodgers to me. So
is that your guy?
no, God no, God no, no, no. I'm a Steelers girl. Although if he goes to Steelers, then yes, he will be my guy.
Right,
But
and then you're gonna welcome in all of the circus that comes along with Aaron Rodgers if he goes to the Steelers.
uh, yeah, yeah. If he brings in a Super Bowl, yes, I will welcome in all of the circus that goes with Aaron Rodgers. But if he doesn't, no. But back to LeBron. So it kind of segues into one of the questions that I had, and LeBron is probably at the forefront of athletes who talk about social justice and politics. Should athletes be responsible for talking about social justice and politics? Like, on the one hand, we don't want them to be role models, or we don't want them to be like, in my opinion, the people closer to the kids should be the role models, right? Like the fathers and the mothers, and LeBron isn't. If I had kids, wouldn't be a role model. He's a great athlete that I like to watch play, but he's not a role model. I mean, in the sense that it supersedes what's in the family. Okay, so in your opinion, should athletes be responsible? Like Ovechkin, when he was asked about the Russian invasion, was like, "I'm just an athlete." Like, so that's one side, and then you have in the summer when all the racial tension was coming out, all the athletes coming out against it. Where do you fit in that conversation?
Whew. Oh man, that's a tough question. Um, I do believe that athletes, should they choose to, should have a social presence to where they feel that they can impact change in whatever their field of influence is, for
Okay,
whatever the cause is that they believe in, because they have clout,
right?
because they have prestige, because they can actually persuade people. They have power, they have money, they have influence. And if they can use that platform to create additional awareness to things that may not be aware, if they can use that platform to create funding for different programs that help in things like that, like I'm a fan of LeBron James as the activist, and what he's done with the school, with the My Promise, and all of those things. I'm a fan of LeBron James, the businessman who comes from, a single mother household, where he'll tell you, man, I'm just a kid from Akron. He'll tell you that I was supposed to be this statistic. And for all intents and purposes, he's a special and gifted human being in just his what he does, not just on the floor, but also off the floor.
Okay,
There's also that side where people go to sports as some sort of entertainment, right? Sometimes a breakaway, from the real life things, of the world. And I appreciate, Vection's response. You know, he, I'm just an athlete. I can't control Putin. I can't control Putin. I can't control, what Russia's doing over there in Ukraine. Shout out to all of the people that's suffering from that. By the way, our thoughts and prayers and well wishes and all of that good stuff to those people. But I do think that there is a space for that. I do think that is a space. I don't think that they have a responsibility, but I do think that they should have the freedom, should they chose use to their platform, that they should be able to do that.
regardless of what the platform is.
Yeah,
So like I agree with you. I'm a fan of LeBron. I'm a fan of all the athletes that came out for social justice because they agree with my opinion. Do you know what I mean? I the whole shut up and dribble thing is the people that they didn't agree with. So if oh, who's the crazy guy that just lost his job? Whitworth. Um, he used to be on ESPN, but he's not anymore. But he has his own podcast. Who was always against. Oh, and it's like the Skip Bayless thing, in my opinion. He does this for clicks and for, you know, people to start talking about him. But he came out and said with the Michigan when the Michigan coach open-handed hit the Wisconsin coach or the Wisconsin assistant coach. He came out and said that if it had been racial reversal, everyone would be up in arms, which I don't necessarily agree with. And to characterize that as a fight to me is like just crazy because that was I've seen fights and I don't know who these people are that think that was a fight
that was
because they
definitely a
clearly have not ever
basketball
seen a
fight.
fight. What?
That was definitely a basketball fight, right?
I
We
mean,
see.
I don't know. I wouldn't like it. No, no, really. It was like one hit and then like a melee of nothing.
Right, that's what
So,
basketball fights are.
oh, okay,
It's,
okay,
it's,
that's
it's one it's one swing, and then a melee, and then there's a bunch of people that, we hold each other back, and then once they get held back, then everybody's the tough guy. Like the guy who tried to fight LeBron last year. The guy from the Pistons. I can't remember his
oh
name.
yeah. That he kept getting in LeBron's
Yeah,
face.
he kept
Yeah.
running back like, let me at him, let me at him. Wait, hold me back, hold me back. Okay, let me at him, let me at him.
So, um, a basketball fight. I'll have to remember that. I didn't know that there was a difference between
Yeah,
it.
there's
There
definitely basketball
qualities of
fights,
fight.
right? There ain't
Okay.
no hockey fights going on. Those are real fights.
No.
Hockey
Yeah.
fights, those are real fights. Football fights and basketball fights, those are the same. Hockey fights and baseball fights, those can get pretty real sometimes. But basketball
Just
and
hold me
football,
back.
we're slapping the helmets and stuff.
Yeah.
Those guys don't want that smoke.
So, I mean, I agree. He should have been suspended. He shouldn't have like open hand hit him, and the other coach shouldn't have tried to stop him when he went. But if the person doesn't agree with your opinion, do you still want them to have that platform to talk? Like I personally don't. I'm not gonna lie. If someone is saying, especially if someone of minority status is saying what I consider things to rile up, you know, like oh yeah, if he was like oh if what is his name? Rose, who's the coach of Michigan?
Jawan Howard.
Juwan Howard. If Howard had been like a white guy and the other guy had been a black guy, then we would have like been asking for his resignation. No, it was an open-handed hit, and he barely hit him. So
So wait. His point was if Jawan Howard were white
right,
and he swung on a black coach, or just if Jawan Howard were white in general,
I think
that
his point was if Juwan Howard were white in general,
that
whether
we
his
would not be calling for Jawan Howard's job or things like that.
no, we would be.
We would be if he were
Yeah,
white.
that was his point. If Juwan Howard was white in general, instead of saying oh he should just be suspended for the rest of the season, we would be saying oh we should give up his job. He
Which
equated it with wait what?
very well may be true, but From what I've
Mm,
seen, there was a lot of people asking for Jawan Howard's job. I was surprised he only got suspended for 5 games. There was a lot of talk about whether or not he should keep his job. Um,
um, the
so
so the talk that I heard about whether or not he should keep his job, because this wasn't his first melee. Like Juwan Howard is, I don't remember him being that hot tempered when he played for Michigan, but he's gotten into a couple of tussles with other coaches. So I mean, that was the only talk that I heard that he should lose his job was because his hot headedness, not because of that one incident. Whitlock is his name. I don't know his first name, but his last name is Whitlock.
Whitlock, yeah, I know who you're talking about. I agree with you. I feel like the platform should be used when it positively impacts society, right? If there's
Right.
there's a message, a healthy message socially behind that. If people are just talking just for the purpose of talking because
Skip
they have a
Bayless,
mouth to do it, right?
Whitlock.
I'm not too big of a fan of that. But if an athlete, the women's basketball, right, and they have something to say about equality and all of these types of things, and in protest they say, hey, you know what, we're not going to play. I
The
support
women's
that
soccer
stand.
team,
Yeah,
the U.S. soccer team.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So we're in agreement then.
yeah.
Maybe, sort of, like
We are.
close.
We are.
Okay.
I agree. I agree that I don't think that athletes should have a responsibility. That was the question, right? Do they have a
Right.
responsibility? I
Right.
don't think that they have a responsibility. But I do think that some people might actually look at them as such, like you talked about, role models. You know what I mean? Where some people might say, hey, LeBron James is an exemplary person. He has, from what we know, great character. He married his high school sweetheart. All of this. Where he came from, he gives back. His heart's in the right place. Yeah, he's somebody that if you are going to imitate an athlete, right? If you are going to say, I want to be like that person, you as a parent, if my kids say that they want to be like LeBron James, I wouldn't stop them from, you know, being that because I think that LeBron James is a person of very, very high character.
How many kids do you have?
I have two.
Boy,
Got
girl?
two boys, 7 and 4.
Yikes. That's
Yeah.
a lot of energy right there in the
Oh
household.
yeah, it's a lot of energy. They're quiet right now. My little guy comes on right now. He's like trying to pop on the podcast right just a few minutes
Bring
ago.
him on. Let me see him.
Yeah, yeah. But
Where
he
is he?
just started. He went back into his room. He just started
Oh,
playing basketball. Him and my 4-year-old, they started playing basketball their first time. So they're excited. They're learning things like sportsmanship and all that type of stuff right now, and just
are
getting out
you a
there and
basketball
competing.
dad? Like, do you go out there and start yelling?
Yeah, I always find myself coaching. I try not to. I don't.
On
I
the
don't want to be.
sideline?
I don't want to be the satellite dad. Just kind of looming around, seeing if the coach is teaching them the right way. But inevitably, that's in my blood. So it does come out. But no, they're having fun. So I just want to kind of. I don't want to be. I don't want to be like LeVar Ball.
Right.
Like that. But
Yeah.
I definitely want to have a little bit more say in that.
Yeah. Well, everyone does, I hope, because he's just crazy. So,
But that was a great question, though. With this, what at what point does that social responsibility fall on people who are in a position to where they may be able to impact change?
right. I
They
mean,
have the money and all of the clout.
I just think that our society has become so divisive that the end of the spectrum that you fall on depends on what the person is talking about. Do
Yeah,
you know what I mean? If you agree or disagree with them, and I, it's just you either, in my opinion, you either agree whether they agree with you or not, which goes directly against what I said I do, but it, all all opinions should be heard, no matter how stupid they are, and no matter how asinine they are. Everyone should have a platform to speak, even though they say stupid shit. Skip
yeah,
Bayless.
Right.
And
Confirmation bias, though, and Gladys, there's always people that are going to look for somebody who's talking exactly how they wanted to hear it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And
to
so,
agree with what they say
would
or
they
how
agree
they
with this?
it
The
gives
whole thing where itching ears want to hear, type thing. So,
itching ears. Yeah, I've never heard that before. I'm learning so much today. Itching ears want to hear. All right. So my let's do my second question because it kind of did the first question. So the second question is the NFL Combine. If it goes on, like there's this whole bubble thing where agents might be holding their players out because of being in the bubble, which I don't really know if I understand. The agents are holding them out because NFL wants to keep them safe and they don't want to be safe. But anyway, if it goes on, what is there a player that you're specifically or a group um, that you're specifically looking forward to seeing at the combine?
yeah, the combine is it's coming up soon, pretty soon in Indianapolis,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
Um, for me, being just uh, I kind of like to take a break from football after the Super Bowl, but because I
What?
play in yeah, I don't want to talk about football all year long. But
That's
because
crazy.
I play in dynasty leagues where now you start to think
Oh
about,
yeah.
what I mean, and I a couple of years ago I took over an awful, absolutely terrible orphan team in a dynasty league, and it
Why did
was
you take it over?
because they invited me to the league, and I was like, hey, I'll try it. I'll take the challenge. This team was absolutely terrible, right? There were no draft picks. It was like
Oh
all the
my
players were
god.
like, oh, I just started getting rid of everybody. Like traded Todd Gurley, like the year that he went off, and then looked like a genius because his knee just went to shot. So I'm building a competitive team right now. So right now my weakness is running backs. And I think
Okay.
Jeff was he had a little poll up on the social media groups the other last week. Asking about the three running backs. And there's three really good running backs. I think maybe four.
Yeah.
We have
Three,
C.J.
four.
Spiller, Kenneth
Hall.
Walker the third, and then Brees Hall.
Yeah.
So because I'm going number two overall,
Ooh.
I'm looking at
Huh?
that group. I'm looking at that group. I want to see because I'm leaning. If everything falls in my way, I would like to take C.J. Spiller, or not C.J. Spiller. I would like to take Spiller, Isaiah Spiller, and then C.J. Spiller. That's funny.
They'll probably give you CJ Spiller.
Yeah, they'll probably right. You want them? You can have them.
You can have him.
I like Spiller because I like what he did, and in the SEC. And my thing is in college football, right? The SEC. I hate the SEC, but it's a great measure. It's the best conference. You got all of the professional talent there. If you can do that in the SEC, if you can play well in the SEC like that, chances are you could be very productive in the NFL. Where there were some games where Kenneth Walker kind of disappeared, right? He was very like if you take away that Michigan game,
Right.
you know what I mean, where he had like
Yeah.
ridiculous like 5 touchdowns. I mean, he was still good, but that Michigan game is what makes everybody drool over him and say why he's the number one. So I want to see that. I want to see him versus Spiller. I'm not that high on Hall. I think that he's the worst of the three backs. Brees Hall from Iowa State. So
Um.
I'm looking at Walker and I'm looking at Spiller. Which one of those two guys are going to be the ones that I really like and can put my stamp on? And of course, obviously, it depends on where they end up going.
Right.
Landing spot is definitely critical, but those are the two players that I'm personally looking at, and the only ones that I really care about. As wide receivers, they're a dime a dozen.
Well, I personally, only because the Steelers are so bereft at quarterback talent, and because this class is bereft at quarterback talent, am looking to see what the quarterbacks do. Because for some reason, everyone's high on the Pickett. I'm not sure why. I don't. Um, yeah, he got that Heisman nod, but I, yeah, I Willis from Liberty. I think he's getting the short shrift because he's from Liberty, basically. I kind of want to see, but how much? I just want to see them throw. Basically, I don't care what they run. I don't care what the drills do. I just want to see their arm strength, especially having to play in Pittsburgh in the cold in January, December, January. So the quarterback group is the most interesting to me, even though they are the weakest probably group that's going to be on the field this year if they come out. Um, but how much, like, what is it called? It's called the underwear derby or something. How much do you really put into the combine?
Not a lot, but for quarterbacks, I will put a little bit more.
Because of
For
the arm strength test?
Yeah, because you can see that arm strength, right? There are certain throws. For example,
Like,
that hash from the hash to the sideline, that's a far throw. And I remember when I made the decision on the Chargers quarterback,
Herbert?
Herbert. Yeah, I traded up for him. When I did it, everybody thought that I was crazy. It's because what I saw in the combine. I mean, he was making just these throws that I just felt like were ridiculous. I mean, he's throwing from hash to sideline with like zip and pop, and I just know that a lot of people can't make those throws in the
Right.
NFL. I mean, so you can definitely see arm strength. You can see, even though they're in shorts and their basketball shorts and t-shirts, can this player throw players open? Can he hit those windows? What's his timing look like? What does his footwork look like? There's a lot to be seen in the combine for quarterbacks. I think more than any other position.
Oh, sweet. Not that I'm gonna like take the. Oh, maybe I will take quarterbacks this year then. But yeah, I just and this wasn't like I don't. I'm not. God, I hope Kyle's not listening. I'm not really that great in Dynasty. I don't play Dynasty. I'm in his Dynasty league, and I think I'm in another Dynasty league with Fish, but so I don't watch college football that much.
Right.
I do watch the combine, but I look at it for like the Steelers, like
Who's going to be who's coming in your
yeah, because
gold and black?
Mason
Yeah,
Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins really aren't
they're not the
viable
business.
choices for a for a run at anything. So, which brings us to your second
Yeah,
point,
my second point, the whole Kyler Murray, I'm gonna put air quotes saga there, right?
right?
Um, let's just say it out there right now. To the Arizona Cardinals and to social media, sports media, go ahead and pay that man his money.
Or let them go to Pittsburgh
Or let him go to Pittsburgh and they can pay the man his
and they
money.
can pay that money.
Because when I look at, all right, let's play a little game, right? Kyler Murray. So they're making all of this stink about what his agent, put out there. And basically the agent just said, hey, look, roll your dice, move your mice. We're coming out here. This is what we want. We want a long-term deal. We want you to commit. We want you to commit to our guy, commit to stop being mediocre because newsflash, Arizona Cardinals, you have been awful pretty much every year in the NFL that you've existed, except for the Kurt Warner magic year that they went to the Super Bowl. I was going against your team in that one, by the way. That was probably one of the most amazing catches I've ever seen. Santonio Holmes.
Yes,
I was going so hard. I mean, that you had to be conflicted, right? Going against Larry Fitzgerald, though, right?
true. I do love Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah. But the Cardinals have been bad forever, and Kyler Murray comes. People forget, like last year, that team was what 7-1 at one point in time. I think they were last year, and everybody
Um.
was talking about them.
Oh
And
yeah.
I mean, yeah, he has his flaws, but you're sitting here looking in the combine trying to find a potential franchise quarterback. So they're not growing those guys on trees. And the
No.
Arizona Cardinals, they actually have one. You have a franchise quarterback. His arrow's pointing up. He has a high floor. He has an even higher ceiling. Go ahead and take care of your guy. And I know what it is, right? The NFL, I hate the way that the rookie contracts are structured. I think that they get over so much on those young guys. I mean, Kyler Murray's base salary is what, 9.65 thousand? That's his base salary.
Yeah. Well, you can think, what's his face for that? Who's the Sam Bradford?
Sam Bradford.
It's the
Yeah,
Sam Bradford ripple effect.
yeah, that guy. Yeah,
Pay him
that
like 10 million, and then yeah, a rookie
committed
contract.
robbery.
Exactly.
Be like him. That guy. But then you do get the situation where you have a Kyler Murray who is grossly, grossly underpaid, right? And so the
Mhm.
argument is, yeah, but right, he hasn't won a playoff game, and I'm just like, oh yeah, but nothing. Because if you go through the NFL and you ask yourself, if you go through every single division and you look at every quarterback situation there, and you ask yourself, would this team rather have Kyler Murray or the guy that's there? Right? So you start off in the NFC East and you come in. Would you rather have Kyler Murray over Dak Prescott?
No.
No, that's probably the only one in the NFC East. Would you have Kyler Murray over Washington, over Jalen Hurts, over Daniel Jones?
Over Daniel Jones, yes.
You wouldn't take
I
him
don't know
over
about
Jalen
Jalen Hurts.
Hurts?
I mean, it's too early to tell on Jalen Hurts, I think.
I think that is early enough on Kyler Murray to say I'm give me Kyler Murray all day long, right? So you go
Right.
into and you just do that. You do that over and over again, and I count maybe out of the 32 teams in the league, probably the 20 teams that I think Kyler Murray will be an upgrade over their current quarterback situation.
Well, I think a lot of it is too that people, what sits in people's mind, two things. One, how do I put this nicely? So you have, oh, he's the Kyler Murray, he's Lamar Jackson, he's
He's a mobile quarterback. He's not a quarterback. He's
right,
a runner.
right, you know, and so he gets downgraded slightly for that.
Yeah,
And then the last that playoff game, he was bad.
he was bad.
Like he was really bad.
I mean,
So
there was a certain team that just really, really contributed to him looking pretty awful.
he looked really awful, like really awful, like
So is that Kyler Murray or is
or
that
Cliff
more on
Kingsbury.
Cliff Kingsbury?
See, and that's my whole thing. Like Cliff Kingsbury, 2 years in a row now, his teams have started out really well, and then just disintegrated towards the end of the season. And Kyler Murray's bearing the brunt for that. But come on, Kingsbury, what did he do that would make people think that he was going to be this great coach through a whole NFL system, through a whole NFL season? Do you know what I mean? He wasn't even that great a college coach, in my opinion. So to lay all that, yeah, I want Arizona to keep laying that blame on Murray because I want him to go to Pittsburgh. But I think it's unfair that they keep that he's become this kind of, oh, look at him, he's like a spoiled little kid, blah blah blah,
Right.
because he erased their social media. I, he
Yeah,
erased their
and
social
so
media.
they do that right there. Now that goes into these whole leaks of character and all that type of stuff.
Yeah,
Where okay, all of that stuff helps to keep the price cheap. You know,
exactly.
you guys don't really. You think you want this guy? You don't really want this guy. He quit on his team. He's pointing fingers. Do you really? Is this guy really somebody you want to throw the bank at? Yes,
Yeah,
I do. Um, and the Cardinals just gotta know. You gotta fill out the room, right? They just have to know who they are. You are the Cardinals. Kyler Murray gives you the best possible chance that you will ever have to win a Super Bowl, and even that's a bit of a stretch. So go ahead and get your guy,
yeah. I mean,
or somebody else will.
that's true. I cannot see him lingering anywhere like dangling out there for any amount of time if the Cardinals decide they don't want.
And they don't want to keep him, right? He's getting
Yeah.
snatched up and what. But so and the other thing is like, I get it, right? I get why the agent's putting pressure on the Cardinals get it done, lock him up. He was in that last year of his rookie deal, base salary 965,000. He's got some other incentives that's going to get him closer to around 5 million this year with the signing bonus and all that type of stuff. But then it's always that issue, right? When we talk about the NFL players, okay, those the guaranteed contract that's going to protect against injury. When I look at Kyler Murray, as awesome as he is, that injury bug is there. I mean, the guy's like, I don't even, what is he, 5'6", 7"?
Mm. I think he's 5'9" at best.
Is he 5'9"?
I think so.
No way.
I think so.
No way.
I think so.
Okay, they're probably giving him, they're probably being a little bit gracious with 5'9". I saw the game. I was at the game. I was at the game when they played the Rams.
The playoff
And
game?
no, not the playoff game. I was at the I think it was I want to say week 4, week 5. They beat the brakes off of us, by the way. And Kyler Murray looked unstoppable in that game. And he looked like a little miniature, like he looked like a little bobblehead doll out there compared to the rest of the other
They're
guys.
calling him 5'10" in his bio. 5'10" and 207 pounds.
So okay, so we take 2 pounds,
Yeah,
2 inches off of that, and another 50 pounds. He's a good player,
He's not
right?
a good.
And
He's not a big guy. That's
he's
for
not a
sure.
big guy, and so there's this risk there that Kyler Murray is assuming that in his camp is not worth it. They got to go ahead and they got to protect him. But then the question is there a realm? Is there a world where Kyler Murray sits out this year?
Ooh, no. You think so? No.
I don't know. That's why I'm putting it out there. Is there a world where you can see if Kyler Murray doesn't get that contract that he's going to hold out or he's going to sit, especially after watching the last time we had this situation was with the Dallas Cowboys with
Right.
Dak Prescott, right? And he holds, and then he goes out and shatters his leg, and
Oof.
which was
It
weird
was
because
such
his
a bad
value,
injury.
yeah, it was so disgusting. His
Yeah.
value actually went up a little bit, I think, because the Cowboys ended up being so bad that they were like, yeah,
Right.
we need to do
We
this.
need
But
that.
when you're looking at that, right, and you're looking at Kyler Murray and you're looking at his size and just how he's of diminutive stature, with his style of play, right, he does like to run. He's extending plays a lot, so he's out of the pocket a lot. He gets away from the big guys, protecting him a lot. I don't blame him for wanting to lock up a long-term deal.
Do you think that part of Murray's vocal and social media um, resurgence, or whatever you want to call it, is an attempt to get another coach in there that he has realized what everyone else did when Kingsbury was hired, that Cliff Kingsbury isn't an NFL coach.
Cliff Kingsbury is not an NFL coach for sure. He could be an NFL offensive coordinator,
Maybe.
but the Cardinals' problem is that they play a style of football that works in September and October, right?
Right.
And that's what we see, right? We see these high flying offenses early in the season before the defenses catch up to them. The weather's nice and sunny. Nobody's making business decisions in September. You know what I
Right.
mean? You're not making business decisions until December, where now all of a sudden, do I really want to tackle Derrick Henry in December with him running? Nah, I don't really want to do that. And so you see that over and over and over and over again, right? Every year, these high flying offenses, they kind of slow down towards the end of the season. Everybody's averaging 30 points a game in the beginning. And then the games come down to, can you grind out a 17-13 win? And the Cardinals, when your most physical presence is James Conner, and I like James Conner, right? And I'm pretty sure you do too. I like his story and all that type of stuff, but he doesn't really strike fear into me. If I had to game plan a running game, okay, man, this is going to be. He's not what I would call a very physical runner, and I think
Right.
that's how you win. And you got to have a physical ground game. And I think that there are way too many teams in the NFL that want to abandon that too quickly And then when it comes playoff time, the teams that do that are the ones that are going to win.
Well, I think Kingsbury doesn't make adjustments. He doesn't adjust well, and that's not even within a game. It's within a season. He doesn't adjust well. So, like when I first saw that, um, like one of my good friends out here, Jalen, loves the Cardinals. I'm not really sure why. And so when I saw that Kyler Murray had scrubbed the Arizona Cardinals, I
Yeah,
like sent it to him in a text. But my first impression was that he wants a new coach. He doesn't want to
yeah,
play under Kingsbury's system, and 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 I don't blame him. I mean, it's clear in the last 2 years, if you're starting out like 7-1 or whatever they started out the year before was also really good, and then towards the end you can't keep up. It's not necessarily just the players; it's the
right.
scheme. Your
It's a
coach,
scheme.
yeah, your coach isn't adjusting, and so I
And you
could
have
see.
DeAndre Hopkins, who
Oof,
he's
I love
been
them.
completely just like underutilized. I was at
Yeah,
the when I saw the game. Some things you just can't see actually watching the game on TV. What I saw live though is they were just bringing DeAndre Hopkins as far away from the ball as possible. Kyler Murray's a small dude; he's not throwing the ball all the way across the field like that. And they were
right,
doing that because he was bringing Jalen Ramsey with him and just completely out of the play. So the Cardinals' game plan, and it actually worked because they were really physical with us up front in that game where they did establish a run game. I think they had like 216 yards rushing, led by James Conner. They were like, absolutely, who is this team, right? But
right,
they were doing that, and the Cardinals have done that a lot, where they're kind of spacing it out. They're not even utilizing their best player, Hopkins, in the right way. He's very stubborn. He's a lot like Sean McVay and then Zach, the Bengals coach, Zach Taylor, and where these guys are just really, they've gotten by with doing this kind of stuff. They've gotten away with it. But see, the problem that the Cardinals have where McVay can get away with, because they're very similar, they're very stubborn offensive coaches. They want to run these three wide sets a lot, that he just doesn't have the same caliber of players, that the Rams have or the Bengals have, or
Green
and so
Bay.
he kind of, yeah, and so
Huh.
it gets him in trouble.
Uh, okay, so you can see it's conceivable to you that Murray sits out if he doesn't get the contract extension.
I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. To me, if I was on his camp, I would entertain it. I would entertain it.
Really,
Yeah,
if they sit out, they don't get paid, right? Except unless you're
right. But he's
Deshaun
not getting paid anyway.
Watson. Dude, I don't see. I have a problem with someone saying someone who's making $900,000 is not getting paid.
For what
That
he does, comparably, right? Yeah, to you and I, man, what? Give me
yeah,
that. But compared to what he's doing and what he brings to the table, not only for the Cardinals but for football and for the sport of football, and just he's a fun player to watch. He's very entertaining. He's definitely underpaid for who he is. He's going to be, like I said, like if we were to go through division by division, there's not too many teams that would not take Kyler Murray over their current quarterback situation. And so that would make him at least, desirable by at least 20 teams in the league. Go ahead and pay him. He's worth it.
I agree he should be paid more. I agree he deserves a better coach. I just don't. I never got the vibe that he would. But then again, that's between him and his agent that he would sit out a year.
Right. But he has, he's got like baseball in his back pocket. Brother has
True,
options. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
that's
I
true.
can
I can go
go
play
play
baseball,
baseball.
make not have anyone hit me and
Right.
make money.
Make
All right.
you can get on the Bobby Bonilla um, the Bobby
Oh my
Bonilla contract.
God,
It's like the
the worst
greatest contract
contract
ever.
ever, ever. Do they have still Vanilla Day in New York? That's just it's
It's insane. Every year And I always laugh because you know all of the posts are coming. It's Bobby
Yeah.
Bonilla, and
Bobby
the Mets
Bonilla.
fans are like, oh.
That's I can't even fathom that. That's like the Deshaun Watson thing to me. Like, you're gonna pay me to sit here and not come to practice and not be on the sure.
Yeah.
Why would I mean who wouldn't take that?
Who wouldn't take it? Whoever Bobby Bonilla's agent was that did that.
He was like ching.
Yeah,
He
that
was like
guy. I don't know why we haven't heard more from that guy because
I,
that is like
yeah,
that has to be the single greatest contract in of all
ever
time.
of all time. It is. It just simply is. All right, we're gonna do our rants now, and
Yeah.
of course, and of course, I'm gonna go first because my rants are never as epic as yours. Um, so in my head today, I had like four different rants, like at four different times, because it's Monday and things were just going crazy. And it's not really a rant as much as it is this whole inclusion thing, like that. So Cliff Kingsbury comes from college, gets a head coaching job. Matt Rule, who again not that great a college coach, comes from college, gets a head coaching job. Texans were looking at Josh McCown. Like, seriously, from what I understand, Josh McCown, who's coaching a high school team. That's his coaching pedigree right now. Is that he's coaching a high school team. Kevin O'Connell, who by all everything I've read about him is an offensive genius, has only been coaching in the NFL for 7 years. Like, and he gets probably what I would consider the best head coaching job. Like, that team's stacked, regardless of what you do at Kirk Cousins. That team's stacked. I mean, if you lose with that team, you deserve to be fired. So this whole, um, yeah, the best guys getting the job and there is no problem is a cop out. If you look around you and everyone looks like you, that's not inclusion. If you if you decide on someone to bowl before you I, I agree the Rooney Rule is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It serves no purpose because it has no integrity to it. It has no integrity behind it. So if you look around you and everyone looks like you're not inclusion. Like Nathaniel Hackett out here in Denver had like went from 3% diversity on his coaching staff to like 42% now. Like from what Fangio had, that's inclusion. And I think it filters down into the fantasy football stratosphere where, people who aren't Jeff Lambert, who includes as many diversity as he can, pick people that looks like them, you know, and they're think they're being inclusive because they're picking people. Well, it wasn't the same guy that worked last year, so we're picking someone else. Look around you. If everyone looks like you, and this has to do with the females in the fantasy sports industry too. If everyone looks like you're not being inclusive. You're being just the opposite of that. And for whatever reason, and I'm not calling people out as racist. I'm not calling them out as bigoted or anything like that. I'm just saying, just look around. You know what I mean? Just look at what's happening. You're giving Matt Rule a job. You're giving Cliff Kingsbury a job. You're looking at Josh McCown as a potential head coach in the NFL who has no coaching experience except for a high school team. Kevin O'Connell has 7 years. And granted, um, the enemy has some serious issues when he was at CU. But that was when he was at CU. You know what I mean? And he's still not a head coach. So something is seriously wrong with the paradigm. And I think that people need to just stop using words that rile people up and make them be on the defensive and just have them look around. Because you can't honestly look around and go, Yeah, 70% of our guys that play are this, but only 2% are coaching them. Okay, that's my rant. I'm sorry.
No, it's a good one. Man, that's a good one. You look at it and you're like, hey, look, talent is talent, right?
Right.
And then you go in, but see, the problem with the Rooney Rule is that it exists because it kind of had
Yeah,
to exist.
it had to.
And then but then because it exists, it's this in oh, let's make sure that, hey, did we interview our black coach yet? Can we actually make our hire? And that was the whole thing with Flores, where his whole stand was that he was never in consideration for these jobs.
Not
it
honest
was just it
consideration.
was just that we have to meet this protocol, okay, and then so now we can say that we are in compliance. And so
Right.
that's when you talk about, when we start digging deep and we start talking about these big issues that the sports world would actually like to avoid. But even in that, you can't avoid them because they're right there. They're present. They're present for us every Sunday. And so it's a tough one.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, there's a couple of groups that are like females in fantasy sports. You look around, they're all white females.
Yeah.
And it's not that I want to be included in these groups, but there are lots of African American females that are writing sports that could be in these groups, and they're not. And they're patting each other on the back because, oh, now we have a woman in sports thing, but you're not
Yeah.
being inclusive. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And
And
then
so I think,
they're not just the women that oh, well,
yeah,
we want these girls. Not only do we these girls, we want them to look a certain way.
exactly.
Blonde, curly hair, pretty girl. You know what I mean? So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's work. There's work to be done. That's what those stickers on the back of the helmets are for, though, right?
If only the stickers could be magically applied, then we'd be
Right.
so much better. Is that your son? Is that the one that wants to come on?
Yeah, he wanted to come on. He always does.
Bring him on next time.
He went back. He went back. There'll
Okay.
be plenty of times because he's definitely, anytime the camera is on, anytime I'm on my,
Nice.
just have like Zoom or anything like that, he's always trying to jump on. So I'm pretty sure we'll
Nice.
get to see him eventually.
All right.
From
Your rant.
Yeah, mine is a rant. I want to jump on my soapbox a little bit for DeMar DeRozan, for consideration into the MVP in the NBA. And now I hate the MVP award, because in the past it doesn't go to the most valuable player. It goes to the most popular player, or it goes to the best player on the team with the best record. When you go back into the history of the MVP, you could have said basically that you could have given the MVP to Michael Jordan every single year that he played. You could say the same thing even about LeBron James, right? Every year that he played, he's the most valuable player. Even this year, he would have a point, with his numbers. But I'm looking at DeMar DeRozan, and this is not the sexy name. He's not the guy. He's not the Steph Curry. You know what I mean? He's not Joel Embiid, Giannis, all of these guys who are like front runners. When I look at the Bulls, though, okay, the Bulls are second in the East. What's their fifth? I think they're fifth in the entire league. What their record is? The Bulls are 39-22, so they're second in the East. They're fifth overall in the league, and that's because of DeMar DeRozan. Now, they got a good team: Lonzo, Levine, Vucevic. This is a good team. But DeMar DeRozan somehow, some way, found a way to literally revitalize his career. We're talking about this guy. We're trying to get him. The Lakers are trying to get him as a cheap free agent last year. You know what I mean? Like, just come
Yeah.
in and we got him in our back pocket. And he goes off and he's having a career year. I mean, you look at the guy's numbers. So right now, DeMar is averaging 28.3 points a game, 5.3 rebounds, 5.1 assists, and he has a PER of 24.87. So he's eighth in a league when it comes to player efficiency rating. So when we compare that to what he's done over his career, I actually wrote this down because I was like, this is amazing to me. Okay. Over his career, okay, points per game, 20.6. He's at 28.3 this year. Rebounds per game, 4.4. He's at 5.3 this year. Assist per game, 3.9 in his career. He's at 5.1 this year. PER 18.9 in his career. This year 24.8. Oh, and by the way, his team's in second place. He's an excellent player. Like he plays on both sides of the floor. He's a mid game. I love it being a basketball coach. I love seeing players that can excel in the mid game. He's likable. The guys like him. The team is playing well. And then if you've seen the last 10 games, if you've seen like his last 10 games, I mean, he's averaging like, I think like 38 points a game over the last 10 games.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that stat.
It'd be absolutely ridiculous, right? I mean, just incredible player. And I think that it goes back to the whole thing of what the MVP has become. It's a popularity contest rather than really seeing person's value. Now, if you give the MVP to Embiid, I don't have an argument. You give the MVP to Giannis, I don't have an argument. You give it to Curry, I don't have an argument. I don't think that the Warriors are a championship favorite without Curry. I think that Phoenix is a very, very good team, but I think that Warriors will beat them in a series. I think that Giannis has made he's proven he doesn't have anything to prove to nobody. But I would like to see for once a guy really, really deserving of it for what he is doing for his team to actually come in and be named the most valuable player, not just the most popular guy or the best player on the best team.
Well, can you say that about the NFL too, though?
You can. You can say that about any MVP because what happens in the MVP, right? Who's voting on who's the MVP? It's the sports.
It's
The,
not the
right.
players.
Right. So it's the
Not,
sports media. And the sports
yeah.
media are going to vote on people that they like talking about. It's not as fun to talk about DeMar DeRozan as it is to talk about Steph Curry, who makes like 17 3-pointers in an all-star game and has, the wife and, this good clean cut image, or, Giannis, the boy coming into, turning into a man, and he's like the Greek freak and you can't pronounce his name and, all of this type of stuff. Those players are fun to talk about. And I guess
What?
that's ultimately what's going to drive it. But if all things were equal, just what a player does for his team, I think that DeMar DeRozan would get my vote if I had one, but they'll never give me one. He would be mine.
Well, I think I don't. I've never understood why writers are the ones who vote on the MVP anyway. Why isn't it a player's vote? I need to look that up
I don't know.
because it should be a player's vote. I mean, writers are going to come in with their own bias, and so will players, but they also know who they play against.
You know who you play against. You know who you play against, and you know who this team was before that player,
Before that player,
came there.
like I mean, there's great argument that Cup should have been MVP.
Yeah.
Donald could have been MVP even before the Super Bowl games. Like you take them off their team, and that's what the most valuable player is, isn't it? It's the person
That's
that your
what it
team.
is. You take them off of that team. Are they still the same? Are they still as good as they are right now?
Yeah.
And I think that. So,
I like
when we talk about it from that perspective, okay, Curry makes sense, Embiid makes sense, Giannis makes sense, but so does DeRozan. That team's not in second place in the Eastern Conference
without him.
if DeRozan is not on that team.
I like your rant. I liked your rant today. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. All right. So, and we're out of time for our Monday show. We thank everyone who's listening. Jack thanks you too. He refuses to lay down. So join us next week. It would be Kyle and press coverage. I don't know who his guest is because he never tells me, or he might tell me and I don't remember. But happy March, everyone. We will be on the 14th. Is that right? Because the 7th is. We will be on the 14th of March. I think that we might try to have like a guest on, like once a month. So if anyone listening wants to be a guest on, just DM me or what's your Twitter handle? How
Man,
are you
I
going to follow?
don't even know. Let me see. I have like
If
no
you,
followers. I'm brand new on Twitter. What
that's
am
because
I?
you
At
no one.
JBank727.
And it's J Bank. It's not. There's no S on there.
No, J Bank. That's an old basketball nickname. J Bank. No
Oh,
S.
okay. So DM me or J Bank at on
Seven at
Twitter,
J Bank 727.
or hit him up on Facebook. I know that you're in that Facebook group, right, with Jeff.
Yeah, I'm
I
on a
think you're.
lot of I'm in a lot of social media groups. Facebook with Jeff. You know, he does like the DFS chats, and then he has the like the fantasy one, the armchair and all that type stuff. So I'm in on there.
So so hit Jay up or hit me up on Twitter
Yeah, we
at
love to
back.
have you.
Yeah,
We love to
we
have
would
you. Fun.
have your opinion on it too. And once again, happy end of May. May. Uh, if only. Happy end of
Right.
February.
Beware the Ides of March.
The
You
Ides
know,
of March. Exactly. Speaking of which, if you guys haven't seen Hamlet with Denzel, you should definitely do that.
I have never seen
Completely
that. I
different.
didn't know that
Totally
Denzel
different.
made a Hamlet.
Yeah, the Coen brothers did. Or no, Joel Coen did. And his wife, Frances McDermott, and Denzel
Awesome.
are in it. And Denzel, I mean, you can't go wrong with Denzel. I don't care
I have
what
to
he's
add that
playing,
to the watching.
but he's
Feeling.
oh, he's so good.
All
It
right.
makes me want to listen to Shakespeare, which never, ever, ever happens. So hop on that. And also, King Richard is really good with Will Smith,
Excellent.
although it made me cry. So if you don't want to cry, don't watch it. I don't like sports movies, they make me cry. So you guys, hop on with Jay, hop on with me. We will see you in 2 weeks. Next week, listen to Kyle on the press coverage. And thank everyone who's listening. Bye. I'm going to go eat some fried rice, I think. Pseudo fried rice.